First Prince, and I am here to deliver the update version 1.3 for the One operating system. If you believe you are the one operating the system, this update is for you. So, the body is a ship moving throughout different spaces. It is a space ship, and it's navigating via individual matrix or matrices. And each individual matrix is comprised of individual belief systems. These belief systems yield to the higher or overarching system of karma. And in a karma game, you are in a state of separation from spirit, and you're living in a state of limitation, and you are alienated from your body. And if you're not in the physical body, then you are not, or you rather cannot activate the heart chakra because you are not connected to self. And so, if you cannot activate your heart chakra, the chakras which are operating predominantly are going to be the base, the navel, and the solar plexus. So everything is going to be, all your interactions are going to come out of instinctive terror. It's going to come out of karmic patterning. It's going to come out of power, lust, greed, sheer ego, and everything is going to be transaction based. So you don't get to have a higher interaction until you are fully in your body. And of course, the upper non embodied chakras are not activated at all. So it's a process. And as you build upon your light body, as you feed yourself light and you strengthen your light bodies, you will get to a point where the perception of your reality and your internal understanding that you are within a simulation that is meant to teach you certain lessons. And these lessons are crucial for the development of your soul. You chose to come here to this dense realm in order to not become perfect, but rather understand how hard it was to be in a state of imperfection and strive towards perfection versus being perfect and trying to strive for imperfection. So, as God, as the original creator, as the universe, as the highest power, the originating source would have been perfect. However, there would have been a desire for expansion, a what if statement that opens a new sector that allows new memories and impressions to be written into the collective conscious. And on a universal scale, 1,000 years and 1 second bears no difference. Time is relative, time is a marker system used to gauge one's progress in developing the consciousness. However, time is a construct that only remains on this realm. As you move up through the dimensions and through the higher realms, you will find that time is less of a factor, because if you understand that there are multiple timelines and they are all converging at one singular point, that of which is now, then you understand that grace is now. And by processing or by analyzing, you remain in the past. And by remaining in the past and not focusing on the future, you are simply floating lost in space with no direction. So, if we look at the journey versus the destination, the journey can be perceived as the feminine alternative, and the destination would be perceived as the masculine. So, if we are looking at when we get there, the forward, future, the expression of, then we're looking at the masculine aspect. And you have to have a destination in mind. Otherwise, you will get lost in the motion, i.e., get lost in the journey and never arrive to any conclusions. If you never arrive to any conclusions, if there is never a closing of that chapter, how can you start the new chapter? How can the book even continue if there is a constant rereading of the same chapter? There has to be a willingness to move forward and accept the reality versus trying to project a false illusion based reality that doesn't line up and creates disappointment because the internal realm is expecting otherwise, but because there's no communication internally, there's no communication externally, and therefore it manifests as chaos in some way, shape, or form. When we look at the web of beliefs, some of the most earliest beliefs come from our childhood. And these childhood beliefs can be detrimental because essentially we come out as a blank slate. And those who are unconscious, those who are less aware, they project their illusions onto children. And the most effective form of mind control is through the mothers. And the mother is the first figure that the child is exposed to, the first relationship of this world that the child has to understand and deal with. So if the mother is not aware of her own journey and where she is along her journey, then this is where the trauma cycles continue to manifest and continue to perpetuate generation after generation, because there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of speaking truth from the heart space. There could be a simple conversation of, hey, this hurt my feelings, this made me feel a certain type of way. And there can be an exchange and a meeting of the minds and a heart to heart conversation. However, if someone is conversing from a mind headspace and someone is trying to meet from a heart space, those spaces will never sync up because the fundamental programming behind those spaces is different. And when you look at the mother figure, there's this programming to comfort through fear. Child may have a bad dream, They go to tell the mother. Mother gets angry because she's woken up. Go to bed. There's nothing in the closet. Yada yada. Or else. Go to bed or else. Or else you're going to get whooped. Or else I'm going to give you something to be scared about. There's this element of fear unknowingly rather than going and explaining to the child, if you look into the closet, there's nothing there. But if you allow your mind to create a monster, there will always be a monster in that closet, so long as you believe there to be one. Every sound you hear, everything will only further what you believe. So if the individual matrix, the individual web of beliefs is given to us and accumulated and grown from a young age, a young adolescent age, up until the point to where we become self-aware and recognize patterns of abuse, patterns of not being able to defend ourselves, exact our wills, not being able to be free to express our true inner selves, all those times where suppression and depression was the choice rather than expression. All those times led to a behavior of thinking it's more okay to suppress rather than express. And so this is where the communication breakdown comes in. Because if we are not even communicating with ourselves, with our bodies, with our souls, with our minds, with our hearts, then there can't be any communication with the world from the heart. And if there isn't any communication from the heart, then we aren't really speaking because logic, it'll make sense, but you won't feel it, it won't connect. But when you speak from the heart, it resonates because it is striking the same chord of love, compassion, and understanding within that person who is receiving the message. It works both ways. And this exchange is the most fundamental, sought after thing in the universe. It's the connection, it's the connection to another soul, the real raw connection. But this can only happen from a place of authenticity, from a place of not being afraid to express and to share that of which is dormant and lies deep within. The thoughts that may seem to scare you because they seem so radical, but those radical thoughts could spark the change that is necessary, could spark the will to move in a different direction. And this is all about a pendulum. And a pendulum can be seen as swinging to one side. And as it swings to one side, there's a larger gap between the other side. And it becomes extreme. And as it begins to swing back and equalize, the gap becomes less and the less of the gap until it is on the other side. And once that pendulum is on the other side, again, now the other side has this wide gap of equilibrium until that pendulum begins to swing back the other way. And what we are going through currently is a shift. The pendulum has swung all the way to one extreme, and now we are going back. And so the gap is beginning to close. And as this gap begins to close, and we go from hate to love, and we make the shift, there will be more of an understanding that if you are not providing yourself the compassion, if you are not providing yourself the safe heaven, the safe haven internally, you will suffer because the world, the collective, is going through a major shift, a major upgrade, and all types of sicknesses are being purged. But sickness comes from a belief system, a matrix where one has the ability to succumb to weakness and to allow a disease to manifest rather than looking at the signs, the precursors, and understanding the energy and the blockages and what happens when one suppresses energy and tries to contain energy for years and years, and how that begins to manifest when one cannot let things go, when one cannot focus on the now, focus on the grace, because now is grace. If you are focused on the past, if you are focused on the future, you're not here. And again, if you're not here, you're not connected to yourself. If you're not connected to yourself, you're not connected to your chakras. If you're not connected to your chakras, you're not connected to the universe. You're not connected to your power because you're not yourself. It's a authentication system. You have to authenticate who you are in order to receive your power. It is like a sword that is matched to your imprint. Only your imprint allows this sword to be utilized at its max capacity, at its max capabilities. Anybody else wielding this sword, anybody else wielding this magic wand will not have its fullest potential. They might get 70, 80% out of it, but they will not get that 100% because it is not matched to them. It is not matched to their energy signature. And when you understand that you can fundamentally change the character you want to be on a day to day basis, cameras are always rolling and the universe is always looking for new actors to fill roles. However, you have to look, sound, feel, and play the part. You have to method act in the sense that you have to be consumed by the character you want to be. If you want to be a billionaire, you have to act as a billionaire. You have to put yourself in the mind of a billionaire, put yourself in the shoes, the mentality, give yourself the aura of a billionaire so that there is no distinguishable traits from yourself and an actual billionaire, because energetically there shouldn't be any differences. You have to feel it in order to get it. You don't get it and then feel it. It doesn't work that way. You have to first feel, visualize, and then open yourself to receive it. Again, you have to first put the journey into the GPS, put the destination into the GPS, and then choose to start the journey. Just because you put the destination in doesn't mean that you're making progress. You have to actively put yourself on that journey and put yourself in the best path for your soul's evolution. So, when we talk about the protector, right? The protector can be seen as the shadow or the attitude. So, anytime there's an attitude present, that is the subconscious speaking to you via body language and letting you know that it perceives a threat. Now, it is up to you as the conscious user to reaffirm to the subconscious that there is or is not a threat. And the way you do this is through logic. Now, if your intuition tells you this is a bad situation, i.e., you get that gut feeling and it doesn't feel right, you ignore that. Then you begin to logically process the situation, the cause and effect, and you still choose to ignore that. Then, now at this point, not only have you ignored your intuition, but you've ignored your logic and you've ignored your emotions. So, if you've now suffered the consequences and repercussions and you weren't prepared to deal with those consequences, your body still has to deal with those consequences because it is tied to this material realm. So, if your body still has to take the brunt of the energy and it is receiving nothing in exchange, it's receiving no communication, it's confused, it doesn't know what's going on, it's not getting the proper fuel, it's not getting the proper anything. The body over time is going to go on strike. The workers in each of the body parts are going to go on strike because there is a lack of communication, a lack of appreciation, and a lack of gratitude for the body, for the ship. But the ship comes with its own matrix, and its own matrix is based upon different sets of trauma, different sets of childhood trauma that hold energetic units that are encrypted. And these encrypted energy units are waiting to be unlocked as soon as you unlock the doors that are locked in your mind, the doors that you are scared to open, that you are scared to face. And as soon as you remove all traces of victim programming, you can step into your power and understand that everything was meant for the development of your soul, for the furthering of your soul and the growth of your soul. Everything is about expansion because if you are not expanding, you are constricting. And if you are constricting, you are dying. So if you are not feeding yourself light, what are you consuming? You have to ask yourself this and look at it on a broader scale. If you even look at your role as a character who comes with a backstory, and their backstory is crucial to know because the more you know their backstory, the more you understand the family dynamics, the more you understand why you chose this specific vessel, why you chose the specifications that this vessel would provide before you chose to incarnate within this realm. If you look at the attitude again as that shadow protector, there has to be a threat in order for a protector to present itself. If there is nothing but peace, why would we need to be in wartime production? That doesn't make sense. Rather, we would be in wartime production if we are in war. This is what we have to explain to the body. If we are in constant states of heightened awareness, of heightened adrenaline, of anxious states, then this is telling the body that there is a threat, that we are perceiving a threat and we are reinforcing it. And so the body is consistently in these heightened states. And if you are running, eventually you're going to crash. So that crash can be perceived as the sickness manifesting, as the car crash, literally, as any event that slows you down and makes you sit down and reflect, similar to Mercury retrograde energy that makes you do everything with the redirect, reflect, resign, you name it. It's about looking and truly asking yourself, is this the best for me? Is this what's in my best interest? Is this going to further the development of my soul? Because again, you didn't come here to feed or to idolize this vessel that is containing the consciousness, the light, that of which is truly your essence, your formlessness. This is the form that your formlessness took, or chose to take, rather, because you knew that this ship had a specific set of qualities and attributes needed in order to accomplish the experience that you set out. Again, prior to even incarnating within this realm, all the contracts that you sign with the individuals that you come into contact with, that were created before you came here, with the understanding, again, that you needed to learn certain lessons, and certain people were placed into your movie as actors to play the role of whatever lesson you needed to learn. Everything is about seasons. And as you go through each episode, as you go through every day, you have to ask yourself, what is the reality of today? The reality of today is blank. Rather than fixating yourself on an identity, fixating yourself on any type of attachment to a matrix, to a belief system, step outside of it and allow yourself to be formless, to be water. And if you allow yourself to be formless, then you allow yourself to take any form that you are poured into. This now gives you the ultimate flexibility, because you will fill whatever container you are put into. And it doesn't matter the shape, the size, you will penetrate every crevices of that container, because that is your nature as a formless sentient being. And your energy signature is your title. Your title is your energy signature. As you define, redefine, and cultivate your energy signature, you are redefining your title. When someone speaks your name, it will carry a weight, a vibration. It will either be light or heavy. Your name will either mean something or it won't. That is your legacy. If you are placing yourself above humanity, you will be wiped from every single history book, or you will be utilized as an example to show what happens when you think that you are greater than God. If you are not humble, you will be humbled. These are the two states that you must remain in. You must remain humble, otherwise, you will be humbled. This is the way the universe works, because it's about balance. And when you feed anything too much, when you feed one polarity too much, the other side of that polarity becomes depraved. And that depraved hunger makes that energy lust for an outlet, for an opportunity, a way to get that energy back, to feed. So it will do whatever it takes. And if you are not consciously choosing your thoughts, choosing your actions, choosing your direction, you can become hijacked and overcome by these negative entities who are set out to equalize the problem that you created by not dealing with the problem in the first place. It sounds paradoxical because it is. But we create our own problems, refuse to deal with them, and then by refusing to deal with them, we only create larger problems until the point to where we actually deal with them in some way, shape, or form. They may not look the same way that they originally manifested, but at the core, we're still dealing with the same fundamental problem. And it's unlocking a energy unit that is encrypted. And that encryption just lies within the trauma. It lies within solving why did this happen? Why did this experience shape me into the character that I am today? How did this benefit me? How did this help me help humanity? How can I transmute this into something that is beneficial in my eyes versus something that is of detriment or something that will bring destruction to others if perpetuated? It's about recognizing the cycles of abuse and choosing to stop them, choosing to say, everything stops here. I determine what I allow in my universe, who I allow in my universe, and the energy around my universe. Because when you control all the elements, when you master the elements, you can neutralize any situation. You can understand that if somebody is coming to you from a air standpoint, an intellectual standpoint, you would then understand that by adding fire to that, adding passion, the chemical reaction between air and fire is going to fuel the fire. It's going to make the fire bigger. If you were to add water to the fire, that would neutralize the fire. If you understand these basic fundamental elements, if you add emotions, water, to earth, physical, the tangible, the practical, these are the different elements that will allow you to neutralize any situation and obtain the true chemical reaction that you desire. That's alchemy. Alchemy isn't lead to gold, it's ego to soul. And this transformation process is crucial to you obtaining your wings, to you getting your wings back. Because if you can tap into your inner gnosis, tap into your ancient knowledge, and get that Kundalini energy flowing, that prana flow, you can awaken the twin serpents. The twin serpents represent the duality within you, the good and the bad, the light and the dark. When you combine these two elements, it creates a hypnotic spiral. This hypnotic spiral is what ascends you through octaves. These octaves are the different dimensions, similar to the notes on a keyboard. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, then C again. These octaves, as you continue to increase, will just get higher in frequency, in tonality, but they fundamentally are the same notes. And this creates resonance because you understand that there's levels. And as you move up through the levels, you're seeing the same things, but the stakes are higher, the frequencies are higher. It's more potent. And it's more potent because the frequencies are so compact. The intelligence is so sharp that it cuts both ways. And when it cuts both ways, you have to be careful with how you wield your sword. You have to truly become a master with your word and learn the restraint, because it is one thing to have a sword or a word that can cut through anything, any material. However, to responsibly utilize and yield or wield that weapon is paramount to balance and ultimate power, because restraint is true power. Real power is willpower. If you are able to will in the things that you like or desire into your existence, you have real power. If you are suffering from a lack of willpower, or somebody else's will is being exacted upon you, or you are being utilized to bring forth some component of another person's will, then there's an exchange being taken place. However, your awareness in your value is what's key to you not being taken advantage of. If you do not value your time, if you do not value your mind, your intelligence, your divine royalty, then nobody will recognize that, because you are not claiming it. You don't have rights until you claim it. Until you claim that your rights have been offended or your rights have been violated, you don't have a claim. So once you have a claim, then you go to the court. And courts are where games are played. So you're playing the game of convincing a judge, someone who is going to put a box, cast death onto an idea that you may or may not be correct. And that judge is going to give you a judgment, a final decision on whether or not you are correct. And this is a game. It's a game because there's no such thing as right or wrong. So if there's no such thing as right or wrong, you understand that it's no more than a game show. It's somebody dressing up in a robe and listening to two arguments and deciding, I like this argument better. There's more evidence for this argument, so I'm going to side with this argument. And that is the exchange. That is the court. That is the system of games that are being played with your freedom. And this is happening on a global scale because people are not aware of what they can and can't do, because there's been a fundamental disconnect from the body, from the self. And the further you disconnect from self, the further you feel like you have no way to impact the world, that you have no way to retain or express your power. But this is an illusion based off fear. And once you step beyond that fear and begin living fearlessly, you can express any desire, you can express any thought, any change. And so long as you are ready to suffer the consequences from that idea or that vibration being brought into existence, you can bear the weight of that and you can go down that journey. You can have that experience and learn whether that was a good or not good thing. But again, that's the dualistic based thinking. It is only a good thing if it furthers your journey, if it furthers your soul's growth. If it sets you back, there's really no such thing as being set back. But if it puts you into a place of reflection where you have to look back, you can then take what you need to and learn from that. So you're never truly losing. It's just a matter of perspective, because you can't lose in a training mission. This is simply the training mission. This is the simulation built to train you to remember who you are and your ability to manifest. And as you strengthen this ability to manifest, and as you strengthen knowledge of yourself, you will strengthen your knowledge of God. And as you strengthen your knowledge of God, the two become synonymous with each other and you become integrated fully with the God mindset. And you're able to have a more reliable connection and you don't have as many dropouts and there aren't as many times where you'll feel alone because you'll remember that you are never alone. And it's just a matter of perspective and telling yourself, because again, what we believe, what we tell ourselves is what comprises our matrix, is what comprises our world. And our world of belief can be shattered in just one instant when truth is presented, if it is built on any type of false foundation, because truth will always penetrate to the core of any being. And truth speaks to the heart directly. When you speak from the heart, you speak to the heart. And when you speak to the heart, it bypasses the shadow, it bypasses the protector because it is coming in a different pathway. The protectors are not looking that high because they can't even see it that high. The protectors are operating out of the lower energy centers, the lower chakra centers. And since they are operating out of those lower centers, again, they're not even seeing past that sky. They're seeing the cap because it's all about perspective. So where you are relative in the universe, if you are a representation of the micro universe and the realm we're residing in, the being we're residing in is the macro, then everything mirrors each other. And if you understand your planets, your stars, your chakras, when they are in alignment, when there is certain planetary movements within your being, within your universe, and when you know cycles and when you recognize your positioning in this cycle and you allow your belief system to be taken offline and you just allow grace, God, to take the wheel and be present in the now instead of planning, instead of reflecting, instead of looking back at what you could have done, focusing on the now and the observation of the divine plan that is unfolding before your eyes. You, as the vessel, if there is a level of gratitude, can truly be immersed in the experience of having the best role ever. And no matter how small you may believe your life is, you are significant to the universe. And you have an entire backstory, an entire set, an entire location, an entire set of things that have been prepared specifically for you to experience and to grow and to evolve within. And this is the love that the universe has provided. It has provided a environment that is based on suffering because it is never meant for you to want to stay here. It is meant for you to want to come here, to learn, to appreciate, to have a level of gratitude for the non suffering because you have known suffering. So when you move on, when you transition and you no longer suffer, you can appreciate that lifetime of lessons where you learned from scratch how to create a character, how to cultivate, redefine, and create a legacy, a lasting vibration, a title that, when summoned, will resonate with a certain energy and a certain frequency, no matter how long or how soon anything occurs. The name will stand the test of time. The title will stand the test of time because it is timeless. It is outside of time. It is outside of the matrix. It is outside of what is perceived to be true. And this is where the innovators come from. This is where the innovators live. Outside the matrix, outside of what is perceived to be true, pushing the boundaries until the gaps are narrow enough that one can jump from one side to the other and experience each perspective, and then finally bridge the gap by understanding the duality. Once you understand the duality, you can bridge the gap. If you look at it again from a numerology standpoint, numbers 1, 4, and 7 are masculine and associated to thought. Numbers 2, 5, and 8 are feminine and associated to feeling. 3, 6, and 9 are androgynous. Thought versus feeling, the combination, emotion versus logic. This is the 50-50 equilibrium that must be maintained in order to make the best decision while operating within this simulation, within this reality. If you're not operating from a place of logic and emotion, you are in one modality, and that modality will cause you to overheat, because similar to the masculine and feminine polarities and having to switch from expression to receiving the feedback and then expressing the updated feedback or the updated change, and then constantly revising the programming, there's a disconnect. And that disconnect comes from, again, not knowing the destination, not knowing where it is that you are going. If you are in motion but not knowing where it is that you're going, you are just lost in space. And you're justifying it by telling yourself that you are surviving, that you are doing the things that you need to do. But in reality, the universe is just allowing you to maintain your sense of free will by choosing things that are not in your best interest, because you have so much free will, you can choose bondage. And so, if you choose to bond yourself to things of this world, to positions, titles, all these things are man made. And so, since these things are man made, they are a vibration. And since they are a vibration, they carry a certain weight behind them. Since they carry a certain weight behind them, that means that ultimately you are choosing to carry the weight. Different varieties of weight. And you could just put it all down and choose to be within the moment and utilize what you need, rather than accumulating an abundance of things you don't need and having to carry that weight. Let go of the weight and allow yourself to be more creative with creating tools to help you in the moment, to help you understand where it is that you are in the journey, rather than utilizing old methods and trying to hold on to old methods that may not work for your present situation. Because you adapt, nature adapts, the universe adapts, everything adapts. And so, if you are not adapting, if you are not evolving, then you are being deformed. And this deformation will happen in a sequence and allow you multiple opportunities to evolve, to continue to push past what you perceive as true, what your matrix allows you to believe and see. However, if you see the mind as an airport, and if each thought is a plane coming in, your ability as the consciousness is to operate as the air traffic controller and to safely land each thought, to safely ground each thought, and to create an airport that can handle a different volume of planes, a different volume of thoughts without crashing or significant delays or holdups. If you are not in a place of readiness, in a state of readiness, then the universe cannot direct planes, cannot direct thoughts to you in order to ground and turn into physical passengers, physical manifestations of your dream, your reality. Each song that I create, I visualize as a salesperson. That's a unique attribute of myself, a unique person, a unique entity that is going out representing myself as a musician, and it is marketing my skills. Different songs are going to appeal to different people. This is the same way different marketing techniques are going to appeal to different people. And so when you fundamentally understand everything is about connecting with the emotions, with the heart space, these companies, these marketing companies all understand that colors, signs, smells, certain symbols, they all speak to your subconscious. And if you are not conscious of the subconscious, you are being ruled by the subconscious. And if you're being ruled by the subconscious, you are not aware of what is going on, where you are in your process. And if you're not aware of where you are in your process, again, you're being utilized as a battery pack, as a projector, and you are being extracted. Your energy is being extracted and it is being used to fuel and power somebody else's dream, somebody else's vision of a perfect world, of a perfect reality. But again, if there isn't that self love, that honesty, that balance for self, then there can never be a point where you move past self and step into the realization that there is no self, there is no identity. This is just a strung up set of beliefs that is unique to this energy signature. But again, you at the core are not this actor. Your spirit, your energy, your consciousness is animating this actor, is giving this actor life. But without your consciousness, without your formlessness, this actor does not have life. This actor cannot animate itself. It's just flesh. It requires the spirit in order to be in motion, energy in motion, emotion. You and I are emotional beings, and connection with other emotional beings is what feels best. When you truly connect, when you truly do something good for somebody, when you actually allow yourself to be vulnerable, that's what feels good. It doesn't feel good to be mean to somebody. It doesn't feel good to push somebody away, to alienate somebody, to isolate. It doesn't feel good to be in those modalities. Why? Because we want to connect. We want to connect with other individual aspects of ourself. Each individual is an aspect of ourself that knows something about us that we don't. If you approach everyone as if they know something about you that you don't, you will learn so much more and you will want to connect with everybody, which is how it should be. There should be no labels, no blinders, no filters when it comes to connecting with souls, despite appearance, despite what is perceived. Because at the core, there is a soul animating that body. And that body is only alive because of that soul, that consciousness. So if you know this, if you know there is a consciousness within every single sentient being, but they may be disconnected from themselves. They may not be in their body. Therefore, they may be possessed by certain entities. They may be possessed or being utilized by certain more powerful spirits to do their bidding because they have not built up enough willpower to extract their own will, to be a powerful spirit, and to do what it is that they need to do as a creator. They have not found that they can create a solution for any problem that they have found themselves in because they allow themselves to be in the problem in the first place. And anything they can create, they can destroy. And anything that is destroyed can be created. It's about the duality and understanding and moving past it. Once you move past the duality, the black and the white, you move into the quantum, the full color spectrum, you can understand there is no self. And if there is no self, you are simply animating a character with a role, with a mission, with a backstory, with a purpose. And your purpose is to observe, to play your part by simply observing. If you can observe and choose when it is that you need to read your lines, when it is that you need to speak, and when it is that you can determine this is by choosing if you're going to make a situation lighter, or are you going to add more density? Are you going to make a situation more dense to the point that it is more heavy? It's worse of a situation because you contributed. Or are you going to make it a better situation because you contributed? If you are always trying to add value to everything you do, you are a true king. That is the true definition of a king or queen. A royal divine being is someone who adds value to any situation, any place, any space, because it is within their aura and they emanate and express outward the divine love and joy and peace that is within. And this attracts those who do not have that peace. See, in order to sleep, that requires a level of peace. And that's why some people can't sleep because they're not at peace. They're at war with themselves. And because they're at war with themselves, this is what causes them to not be able to die, right? Because sleeping is just dying. Sleeping is the cousin to death. So if we understand sleep and death are akin to each other, if somebody has all that on their mind, they wouldn't be able to die peacefully either. The same way they can't even sleep peacefully. There is no distinction, but you have to grant yourself that peace by releasing the identity, releasing the self and the problems associated with self. There is a usefulness to understanding the backstory and the character and why, or rather, how the character was developed. But there comes a point where you reach diminishing returns where it's no longer useful to dissect and to analyze and to process things from the past. Because again, if you're not present, if you're not in the moment, then you are missing opportunities. You are missing opportunities that are portals, portals for growth, portals for expansion, and portals that will get you out of cycles that will only continue and continue and continue until you say, I get it. So once you reach that point where you understand where you are within a cycle and you can avoid putting yourself into a defensive posture, you can avoid that attitude because you understand that an attitude just means that you're scared. So address the fear and tell yourself there's nothing to be afraid of. If you address the situation and provide that compassion and that care the same way you would with a child, telling them there's no monster, or rather showing them there's no monster under the bed, rather than instilling the fear aspect of, I'm gonna show you, or the monster's gonna get you if you don't go back to bed, or you are only fueling an imagination, a belief system, a matrix that will continue to evolve and adapt based off its core programming. And when its core programming is fundamentally flawed, you're going to have to wipe the entire system at some point. And so the faster you catch the problem, the faster you identify it, the sooner you can begin to address it, and the sooner you can begin living in a state of peace and harmony, which is the ultimate goal. To know, have the inner peace that yes, this world is meant to be full of suffering. However, if your perspective is in the right place, you will not suffer because you will not be attached to the outcomes. You will not be attached to the expectations and the reality and the differences in the reality versus your inner vision. So if you just allow yourself to be formless, to go with the flow in the moment, be water, you can allow yourself to be freed, because water will always choose the path of least resistance. It will always find a way, and it will penetrate every crevices, any corner in a matter of time, especially when it is flowing. But you have to get into that state of flow. You can't get into that state of flow unless you understand self. Once you understand self inside and out, you can then begin to manipulate the elements outside of you, because you understand how they work internally, and you understand what you have at your disposal. If you have more fire, if you have more passion, if you have more intellect, more air, if you have more water, more emotions, you can begin to play with your chemicals, your internal chemicals, and create the reactions that you desire and create the reality that you wish. However, this cannot happen without the fundamental alignment. That's at the core. So, knowing that each individual matrix constitutes a different belief system, and different belief systems allow people to see things or not see things. If you understand this, you understand that you may have to explain things differently to different people. And this is not lying, but this is fundamentally understanding that different people are going to be at different places within their journey. And if you open the door to a dragon and they have no armor, no sword, no shield, they have nothing, you're going to get that person killed because they are not ready to be at that level. Everything comes within time, and when a person is ready to shed those old personalities, those old emotions, those old belief systems, the old matrix that they used to operate on, a person has to be ready and willing to switch that, because otherwise, by default, if the system reboots, it's going to go back to default programming, and that's going to be old programming. And that's not beneficial to somebody who wants to change, somebody who wants to evolve. So there has to be an awareness of where you are in a cycle and how ultimately you are going to place yourself in a trajectory for the best position of success through focused intent and dedication to self. If you focus on making everything intentional, then nothing you do will feel as if it's a waste or if it's meaningless because you understand the intent behind it. And if you have an intent behind something, that means that you have a goal in mind, some sort of definition of success. And that's crucial towards moving forwards. You have to have that destination and you have to have the journey, but you have to have the balance of the two because either modality can be detrimental to the experience. So if you balance the two, you have a pleasant trip. And that's what this entire human experience is about, having a pleasant trip through appreciating the journey, the day to day, because you know the destination is death. So if you know the destination, why would you not appreciate the journey? There has to be a balance, knowing that this is not forever, and knowing that since this is not forever, there is something that you are being prepared for. And that next level is crucial, that you understand self, because you cannot have the same level or the same latitude that you have down here on this realm where everything is dense, where everything takes a while to manifest. The higher you go, the more instantly things manifest because it's light, it's lighter in density. There's nothing opposing it. Down here, there's all types of buildings, radars, and all types of things blocking the signal from flowing freely. And all these blockages just make it so the signal has to penetrate through more things. It has to become stronger. And you can do this. You can strengthen your own signal. You can strengthen your own field by, again, focusing on self, focusing on love, and focusing on operating from the heart chakra at all times. As long as you do that, you'll continue to evolve. So, to the next one, this has been the Algorhythm 1.3, Christ Prince. Peace.